If you go online and search around social media, you'll quickly find out that Steph Curry has so many fans. It's very understandable. The guy is the greatest shooter that the game of
Chat, Magic Johnson or Steph Curry? If you're watching the clip, comment down below, man. Let me know what y'all think.
basketball has ever seen. He spaces the floor like no one else has before, and with him leading the way, he has pushed the NBA into a new era, focused almost entirely on three-point shooting. He's also a 6'3" player who isn't an athletically gifted freak like many modern-day superstars. Yet he still finds a way to be an elite ball player year in and year out. Many people find this quality admirable. No matter how you slice it, Steph has firmly established himself as one of the greatest basketball players to ever live. Now with that being said, many of his fans online, many modern athletes, and much of the mainstream media are anxious to put him into the top spot of the greatest point guards of all time. And my response to that is,
stop it. Get some help.
For the people saying Magic in the chat, I just want to ask, what do y'all need to see from Curry to say that he's better than Magic? What do y'all need to see?
It's not that I think Steph isn't on his way to the top. He's still very elite, and by the end of his career, he might just be the consensus pick over Magic Johnson. But in my opinion, this is the perfect example of recency bias, and way too many people being a slave of the moment. It's so premature to already put him in the top spot, but many people forget just how dominant Magic Johnson was in such a short period of time.
I wonder if he's gonna address the weak West though. You know, I wonder. They never talk about the West in the 80s, man. They never do. But it's cool, man. It's cool. I don't know about.
Many of today's modern legends, Magic wasn't blessed with a long and healthy career. In 1991, he shook the world with his announcement that he had obtained HIV. You need to understand, when Magic played his last game before that announcement, he was only 31 years old. Think about other NBA greats if they retired at that same age. Dirk Nowitzki would no longer be an NBA champion. LeBron.
I have a lot of respect for Magic Johnson doing what he did in that time span. Truly, same thing for Bird and even Jordan. But that's a cop out, in my opinion. That's too big of a cop out, bro. I'm not gonna penalize someone because they actually played longer than you, because this is inherently what that's doing. Even though that might not be his intent. So, yeah, I can't do that, buddy. Can't do it.
LeBron James would only have 2 rings instead of 4. Shaq would have 3 titles instead of 4. Duncan would have 4 titles instead of 5. Michael Jordan would only have 3 titles instead of 6. And Steph Curry would only have 3 titles instead of 4.
But also that's like saying I don't know. Like, imagine if D Rose got injured. Like, we can play this card all the time. At the end of the day, we just gotta look at what you did on paper, bro. Like, what did you do in your time span in the NBA? And with what you did in your time span in the NBA, was it better than this player or that player? Like, at some point, that just has to be the discussion, you know?
Magic Johnson had 5 championship rings when he had to retire at such an early age. And there was still a second half of his career in store that we never got to witness. Who knows? Magic may have ended up with 7 or 8 championships if he wasn't forced to retire early. Now don't get me wrong, my point isn't to give Magic credit for things that he actually didn't accomplish. But what you certainly can't argue is the fact that Magic built a GOAT candidate resume in roughly half the time that it took everyone else to build theirs. Also consider this, in the last 2 seasons leading up to that retirement, Magic was the league MVP in 1990, and he was the MVP runner-up in 1991. In Game 5 of the 91 Finals, which was the last game of that season, Magic had 16 points, 20 assists, and 11 rebounds. He got 20 assists in a Finals game, while his 2 best scoring options were out with injuries, which were James Worthy and Byron Scott. Not only were there no signs of him slowing down, but you could argue that he was just as good as ever. Steph has already significantly passed Magic in seasons played, yet he's still trying to catch him in terms of every major accolade, including MVPs, championships, finals MVPs, and all NBA teams.
Oh my, I don't know, bro. If this is the argument, Jesus Christ, bro. I don't know. Shout out to Johnny Arnett because I respect his content, but I just feel like he gets a little bit too accolade heavy when it comes to his conversations. I don't like if this is the gap, bro. I guess.
All NBA teams. This is because Magic was incredible from the start of his career until the very end. The greatest playoff performance in NBA history was when a 20-year-old rookie guard replaced an injured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at center and won the championship-clinching 6th game with a total of 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals on 61% shooting. And what people often fail to consider is how a rookie Magic did that against the Philadelphia 76ers, who were the #1 ranked defense that season. That was Magic's impact in his first season. While on the other hand, Steph Curry wasn't even considered as an elite player in the league until his 4th or 5th season.
I feel like that's not fair, though. I feel like that's not fair, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm not penalizing Magic for being great off the gate. I think there is a level of like, yo, that's crazy. But honestly, I said this 2 to 3 years ago when I was doing my solo basketball shit about Giannis. I said, yo, bro, with how nitpicky that top 10 all-time conversation is, I honestly think the GOAT conversation with Giannis is over. In actuality, probably isn't because he has a lot more time left and I think we're being more knowledgeable as an NBA fan base. But I was like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, I would not be surprised if in these conversations, in these nitpicky ass conversations, people are gonna bring up the fact that LeBron, Jordan, Magic, Kareem, all these dudes were great out the gate, but Giannis, he wasn't great until 3 to 4 years into his career. I knew this was gonna happen. I knew it.
Again, I just can't emphasize enough how Magic didn't have the luxury of a full career like many other greats did. In this modern NBA, LeBron James is entering his 21st season in the league, Chris Paul is entering his 19th, and Kevin Durant is entering his 16th. John Stockton was another great point guard from Magic Johnson's era, and he played 19 seasons in the NBA. Magic only played 12 seasons before HIV caused him to retire. If he had a career as long as the other greats I previously mentioned, then he would have been competing for championships alongside of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant in the twilight of his career. In Magic's 12 seasons before the announcement, he made it to the NBA Finals 9 out of those 12 seasons. And in the entire Western Conference, he finished the highest in the MVP race 9 seasons straight. That is dominance. If we're being honest,
they never want to talk about the weak West. It's crazy though, it's crazy.
That's a level of individual dominance that Steph Curry can only dream of, as his longest streak was just 2 seasons. Now, some Steph Curry fans will argue in his favor, saying that Steph changed the game with his 3-point shooting, and thus did something that no other great has ever done before. I'm gonna be honest, I hate this argument so deeply, because it isn't nearly as unique as they make it seem. When you narrow down the list of the top 10 greatest players of all time, nearly every one of them did something that completely changed basketball. For example, Michael Jordan made the game global. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson literally saved the NBA in the 1980s. Wilt Chamberlain changed the rulebook because of his dominance, as the league office was looking for ways to slow him down and balance the league. Bill Russell,
but I don't think they say that for the Curry versus Magic debate though. And I think that gives credence to like Curry being in this class. The fact that he is doing something that these players have done, which is why they're also in that class, bro. I don't know, man.
Won more championships than any other player in NBA history. Other than Bill Russell, the longest streak of championships by a player is 3 straight rings. Bill doubled that and then added 2 more on top of it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar uniquely dominated the league as he introduced the most indefensible shot of all time, the skyhook. In the history of the game, no player has ever had an entire conference gearing up to stop him like Shaquille O'Neal did in the early 2000s. I could keep going, but as you can see, many all-time greats have done things that have changed the game.
And
So
Curry's one
Curry
of them.
fans saying, "My boy changed the game with his shooting," isn't swaying anything when you're looking at the select few greatest players of all time. Earlier I mentioned how
it's just a
mainstream
point.
media
I mean,
is already pushing this
just a
narrative.
point.
One of those people is Colin Cowherd, who claims that Steph Curry has already surpassed Magic Johnson, due mostly to the fact that Steph is a great shooter and Magic is not. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the dumbest arguments you could possibly make.
I will say, if that's your sole argument, the fact that Curry's a better shooter, that is kind of weak sauce. That is kind of weak sauce, but
When comparing greats. Holding past legends to the standard of what makes players great in the modern game is ridiculously biased and seems desperate for a hot take.
I just think this whole and this is the problem with greatest of all time discussions. You're comparing players from different eras, playing different positions, with different career circumstances. You're mixing up accolades with the actual skill of basketball. Like, at some point, it does just become subjective. You know what I'm saying? There is only so much objectivity you can put on the game. And also, it's just human nature to not be consistent. To expect someone to be 100% consistent, in my opinion, is just that's just dumb. That's just dumb, in my opinion. Everyone has their biases. Everyone is inconsistent to a certain degree. That whole thing is just dumb to me.
If you went back in time and during the 1980s, you told Magic Johnson he wasn't the best point guard because he couldn't shoot from the perimeter, he would probably say, "What the hell does that have to do with me winning a championship?" Magic was the guy who found his shooters, like Michael Cooper and Byron Scott. And at that time, that era wasn't defined by screens and three-point shooting, but it was defined by fast break transitional basketball, which no one was better at than Magic. None of those stars in the 80s gave a damn about winning a hypothetical horse competition with players from the future. They were trying to win championships in that era based on the style of that era. And clearly,
it's also interesting to me as well with these discussions because we have seen players in the past literally sacrifice individual accolades and individual stats and even their game for the sake of winning. So to then go back in time and penalize them for doing that, that's also kind of weak sauce to me. Again, this discussion, just my whole takeaway is just there's so much nuance to it. At some point, debating about this 24/7 is just And let's just embrace the subjectivity. At some point, you know what I'm saying? So
Magic was very good at doing that, which should be what truly matters. Now listen, this video is not intended to come across as a Steph Curry slander video. My only point is that people are young and overreactive sometimes, and they're prematurely trying to put him in a spot that currently belongs to someone else. As of now, Magic has the edge in dominant consistency, championships, and individual accolades. I just don't see an angle where you can legitimately elevate Steph Curry above him at this current time. With that being said, Steph isn't showing any signs of slowing down either, and shooting ability is one of the skills that age the most gracefully in the NBA. So you would be foolish to say that it's impossible for him to pass Magic at some point in the future. As in the case of most things,
I think the reason why a lot of people are more comfortable putting Steph in that category is because from a talent perspective, Steph Curry has proven that, like, yo, he is up there. He is up there. His peaks is up there. You know what I'm saying? But once the accolades started to climb up with him, once those accolades started to become close to a Magic Johnson, that's when people became more comfortable. It's kind of like with LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we talk about peak LeBron James, we're really talking about, for a majority of people, 2012, 2013, 2014. That's really what we're talking about, a majority of us. You know, obviously the 2018 LeBron is 2018 LeBron, right? But when we talk about peak LeBron versus peak Jordan, people want to bring up Miami LeBron. But during that time, the conversation was not so... It was... LeBron needed to catch up to Michael Jordan, and the debate wasn't so equal as it is right now. You know what I'm saying? But as time went on and those accolades started to match Michael Jordan, that's when the debate became more serious. You know? That's what it is. So, at this point, I just think Stephen Curry is peak for peak. Can't believe I'm doing this, but like 4-year peak versus 4-year peak. I think I'm going to take Steph Curry over Magic Johnson. I just like what he brings to the game more than Magic. I do think the era where shooting is more valued is real hoops compared to when it was just starting to become a thing. And in that setting, Curry is way more valuable than what Magic brings to the table. And then defensively, you can say Magic's a better defender, but it's not really like something. It's not something to brag about. But yeah, man. Shout out to Johnny for the video. Not too much on Curry. Not too much on Curry, bro. Magic is not a better defender. Again, we can debate it one way or the other, but ultimately the defensive gap is not anything to brag about both ways, bro. Like, if you think Curry's a better defender than Magic, fine, but it's nothing to brag about, bro. It's not like comparing Magic to Jordan or LeBron.